Did you notice that Deltarune's intro is practically bioengineered to feel as close as possible to its predecessor, Undertale? The characters, the UI, everything was made by Toby Fox specifically to achieve this. However, the first thing that you see when you go read about the game is the fact that it's a parallel story, not a direct sequel or anything. To add to the confusion, you see Toriel as a teacher, like at the end of Undertale, but Azrael is alive and in college, and Undyne has both eyes for some reason. The player starts to question, am I playing as the evil kid from the previous game? What timeline is this? Not everyone will notice every detail, but simply by showing these established characters in a new game, Toby Fox sets expectations and questions. He knows exactly what he's doing. I'll be honest, my initial interest for Deltarune was founded exclusively on the desire to know how it ties back to Undertale. I can't get over all of this until I know who this guy is. I love the story and characters on their own, but the ultimate question for me is, what's the deal with this mystery, man? Every question and plot point in this game, the night and December, which is the same thing, Eamon's friend, the shelter, all of it points back to him. I want to understand how it all connects. I genuinely believe Undertale and Deltarune are inseparable as stories. I don't see a world where they are fully disconnected. There is also a big emotional and nostalgic side to all of this. Part of me just wants to see the characters I grew up with again, and since Toby himself has grown and changed, I want to see how he reimagines these characters too. Many fans come to Deltarune hoping to see old friends again, and Toby understands this. Sans is probably the biggest example of this. We can literally tell him nice to meet you again, even though he doesn't know Chris in the slightest. This is the player talking, not Chris. Sans is generally one of the most intriguing characters here. He is a different person in this game, as if he had negative character development compared to Undertale. He lost one of his most defining traits that's featured in 3 of his most memorable scenes in the previous game. Both when he sits down with you at the MTT resort and after he kills you in the Genoa route, he can tell how many times you have died just from the look of your face alone. He also has similar dialogue on neutral playthroughs. And instead of having this skill in Deltarune, he doesn't notice how exhausted Susie and Chris were at the end of Chapter 4, and how bad his little affair with Toriel looks to them. Sans should know that something is up with Chris when they first meet. I bet this kid does not have a normal expression with their creepy red eyes. And the whole Toriel thing? He should know how bad it is for Chris. It's as if he's less mature in this story than in Undertale, which really gets my hopes up about this game actually being a prequel. I doubt that Tricky Tony would straight up lie to us about this being a parallel story. But it's impossible to deny that Sans Deltarune is going to go through some major character development. Maybe he does know how messed up Chris's whole situation is. I personally believe that Sans is obviously hiding something and has a bigger role to play than just being a joke nostalgic character. I bet he knows what's really going on in Hometown and stopped Toriel from going to church in Chapter 4 on purpose. Why would he do that? I have no idea, but as a big fan of Sans Undertale, I'm expecting a lot from this character. When I stepped out of the church dark world in Chapter 4 and heard the first millisecond of the place where it rained, my reaction was... I can't even describe it. It's like my whole 10-year Undertale obsession flashed before my eyes in an instant. All of the emotions, the experience, the memories. I instantly realized what that meant, but I still can't fully articulate it. This song is a callback to one of Sans's best scenes, and yes, he is going to be important. Yes, he knows something about what's happening and probably directly connected to it. And yes, he's probably spending his last good moment with Toriel before everything goes wrong. I need Sans to be relevant to the story, and I hope that Toby doesn't pull back on the fan service. Let him solo the night for all I care. Also, on the topic of fanservice, the game gets -2 points until Toby adds Muffet into the story. But don't get me wrong, I don't want old characters to overshadow the new ones. Chris, Susie, Rousey and their story are great on their own. Susie especially, since she's the only truly original main character in the trio. Chris and Rousey both feel like remixes of someone else. In the case of Rousey, it's not even on a meta level. He is genuinely almost a copy of Azrael and suffers from a lack of identity. We don't know a lot about him, but he doesn't really know himself either. And Chris is obviously a combination of both Frisk and Kara. Susie, on the other hand, is someone entirely new, not burdened by our expectations or nostalgia. And that's perfect! Deltarune heavily emphasizes her ability to change fate, especially in Chapter 4. The first thing she does is deny us choices that we've grown so accustomed to in Undertale, giving the player whiplash. She really shakes everything up from the start. Of course, the old characters like Sans, Toriel and Alphys aren't one-to-one copies of their Undertale selves too. Toby uses that to toy with our nostalgia. Personally, I felt genuinely sad for a second when Undyne said she doesn't know Alphys in Chapter 1. The endless teasing of Papyrus's appearance also falls in this category. And that brings me back to Gaster, as it always does. I was thinking, what if he is never explained? I've seen a lot of people say that him being an unsolvable mystery is the entire point of his character, and that anything else would ruin it. I personally do not connect with this idea at all. If Toby goes with some imagine the resolution however you want approach, I'm going to be disappointed, to say the least. Unfortunately, after the Undertale 10th anniversary streams that were full of such teases, this has a non-zero chance of happening, I'm afraid. I can't speak for other people, but I want actual answers and closure. It's something very deeply personal to me. And that makes me especially curious about one other thing. What is Toby going to do after Deltarune is finished? If we finally get the answers, then what? I've been waiting since 2016. Toby's possible next project, or lack thereof, seems more and more intriguing the more I think about it. His attitude towards the fandom and the aftermath of Deltarune's full release is something I really want to discuss in depth, so you can subscribe if that interests you. In my opinion, Deltarune is kind of a story about learning to live without answers. The game might ask the player to do things outside of their comfort zone to reach the truth. And that matters because some people got so attached to Undertale's characters that they physically could not do a genre route. If Deltarune ever forces us into emotional or moral territory like that, if it requires deliberate cruelty or uncomfortable choices to uncover the mystery, to see everything, then it would create a uniquely powerful experience for someone who is deeply invested, especially if that someone is not the type to just look up everything online. But Toby has always been aware of players like this. He even poked fun at them in Undertale through Flowey's dialogue on Geno. I think that the Weird Route is already 10 times better in execution than its older brother, the Geno route. But that's obviously not a really fair comparison. Undertale was more about player choice and detachment, while Deltarune deals with the idea of control. Our control over Chris represents the past, our need for answers, our obsession with what came before, and specifically Chris's evidently dark backstory. Meanwhile, Chris's freedom and their relationships, especially with Susie by Chapter 4, represent the future, Chris moving forward without our or anyone else's control. And here is where my personal bias comes in. I want Undertale, and by that I mean the characters and all the unresolved plot threads, to matter in Deltarune. Not necessarily in the main route, because that risks confusing players who started with Deltarune and never touched Undertale, but in a true ending meant for players who have followed Toby's work for over a decade. I want the most bonkers, glitch-style type fanservice to come out of it. Call me crazy, but if Toby actually does that, if Deltarune is going to have a lot of cool fanservice, I might just ascend on the spot. And I am willing to bet that the Weird Route will be mandatory for revealing the game's deepest mysteries. The well-being of these characters will be sacrificed to fuel our curiosity. Another layer to all of this is how Deltarune's episodic nature changes the experience. Undertale dropped all at once and we got the full story, but with Deltarune we've been waiting years between chapters. And that waiting changes the way we think, the way we speculate, the way we grow with the game. Deltarune has become a "you just had to be there" type of experience. Years from now, new players won't feel the same magic. But I honestly can't say what's better: sit in anticipation for 15 years or get everything all at once. Depends on Toby's execution, honestly. I really want to go on an emotional roller coaster as a decade-long fan of the original. Undertale was a game about games. It broke our expectations along with the fourth wall and deconstructed how we interact with video games. Flowey being the biggest example of that, obviously. Deltarune, however, is more of a game about stories, about how they grow, change and affect us, and the strongest representation of this theme is the entirety of Chapter 4. Undertale felt like childhood. It's cozy, it's full of wonder with seemingly endless possibilities, while Deltarune is like growing up and seeing what this world is really like. And this precisely mirrors us. We grew up too as a fanbase. It's been 10 years and counting. This process of change and growth is at the very heart of Deltarune. Not only do we see old characters in a new light, but the main setting, hometown, is constantly evolving with the story. Undertale's areas did change a little bit, but it was just a big walk from A to B instead of a single changing place. Even the periodic release of chapters is a part of this cycle of growth. With every new piece of the story, the entire fandom steps into a new phase with newfound understanding. It's really easy to see that when comparing old theories to newer ones. As much as I hope to see my favorite characters again, Deltarune isn't about that. And not just about answers or mysteries either. In a way, it's about us, the fans, the players, the people who grew up with these games. It's about how we handle nostalgia, change, and the connections we found throughout these years. So I guess Deltarune is about the friends we made along the way.